You know, the real test of a leader isn't just about winning a battle. It's about what happens after the dust settles. Today, we're going to look at the aftermath of a really pivotal victory to see what we can learn about justice, mercy, and true leadership.
So, picture this. After the Battle of Badr, the early Muslim community has 70 prisoners on their hands. And the choices they're about to make, well, they're going to set a huge precedent. They're going to define a whole legacy of leadership that has to somehow balance mercy with justice. So let's dig into how it all played out, looking at some of these cases one by one.
All right, first up, we have a story that's incredibly personal. It really shows you how compassion can get tangled up with the tough realities of war and being in charge.
Okay, so back then, the standard practice was pretty straightforward. Families of captured soldiers would send ransom payments to get their loved ones back. It was just the business of war, a simple exchange of wealth for a person's freedom.
But then, mixed in with all the coins and goods, something completely different shows up. It's a necklace. And get this, it was sent by the Prophet's own daughter Zainab. And who was she trying to free? Her husband, who had literally just been fighting on the other side.
Now, this wasn't just any necklace. It was a wedding gift, given to Zainab by her mother, Khadija, the Prophet's late wife, whom he loved so dearly. The moment he saw it, you can just imagine, it must have brought back a flood of memories. Suddenly, this wasn't just a matter of state anymore. It became deeply, deeply personal.
And here's where we see a really unique style of leadership in action. Instead of just making a command based on his own feelings, the Prophet actually turned to his companions. He put it to them, appealing to their sense of shared humanity. And what happened? They immediately got it. Without a second thought, they agreed to free his son-in-law and give back the necklace. It was a decision made not from the top down, but from a place of collective empathy.
Okay, so not every ransom was paid with something so sentimental. The next case we're looking at explores two totally different kinds of wealth. You know, the gold you might bury in the ground and the good you might hide in your heart.
So check this out. Among the prisoners was another one of the Prophet's relatives, this time his own uncle, Al-Abbaas. When it came time to pay the ransom for himself and his nephews, he basically said, "Sorry, can't do it. I'm a poor man, I don't have any money." And this is where the story gets really interesting. The Prophet, informed by what the sources call divine revelation, confronts his uncle. But he doesn't just accuse him of lying. No, he describes the exact amount of gold Al-Abbaas had buried back in Mecca. He even repeats the private conversation Al-Abbaas had with his wife while they were hiding it. I mean, you can imagine Al-Abbaas was just floored, stunned. He knew this was a secret that absolutely no one else on earth could have known. Right after this incredible moment, a verse of the Quran was revealed, and the message was so powerful. All that material wealth, it's temporary, but the good that's hidden inside a person's heart, now that has real, lasting value. It's basically saying that sincere faith is worth way more than gold.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question, right? We've talked about people who could pay the ransom, but what about the prisoners who are actually genuinely poor? Was freedom just something for the rich? Well, the solution they came up with was, frankly, revolutionary. They created a whole new kind of ransom, one where knowledge itself was the currency. It was simple. If a prisoner couldn't pay with money, but he knew how to read and write, he could earn his freedom. All he had to do was teach 10 children. And this policy was a perfect reflection of the core principles of the faith. I mean, the very first word revealed in the Quran was read. So by turning prisoners of war into teachers, a moment of conflict was transformed into this amazing opportunity for education. It created this unbreakable link between knowledge and freedom.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Compassion was huge. Looking at a person's inner worth was paramount. But, and this is a big but, those things were always balanced with a solid commitment to justice and making sure the community was safe.
And the case of a poet named Abu Uzzah really drives this point home. The first time he's captured, he begs for his life, talking about how poor he is and how he has daughters to take care of. So, out of mercy, the Prophet lets him go for free. The one condition? Promise you'll never fight against us again. But what does Abu Uzzah do? He breaks his promise, he uses his poetry to stir up more hatred, and then gets captured a second time, fighting against the Muslims again at the Battle of Badr.
So when he's captured the second time, he tries the same story, pleading for mercy again. But not this time. His own actions, his own words, proved he couldn't be trusted. The community just couldn't risk being betrayed like that again. So the mercy he got the first time was replaced by firm justice. Not for revenge, but to protect everyone from someone who had proven he would cause harm. So what does this all add up to? You've got these different stories.
One about compassion, one about insight, another about justice. Together, they create this really sophisticated, really flexible model of what it means to lead.
What's clear from the aftermath of Badr is that there wasn't just one single rigid rule for every situation. Instead, what you see is a kind of leadership toolkit. There were different options for different cases. Yeah, execution was on the table for serious crimes like treason, but so was releasing someone for free, or letting them pay a ransom with money, or even with a service like teaching. And while enslavement was a reality of that time and still an option, what we see here is a definite push towards creating paths to freedom. The whole point was that a leader had to look at the specific person, the specific situation, and decide what was best for the entire community. It was about wisdom, not just following a formula.
So in the end, how these prisoners were treated shows us that real leadership isn't some simple formula you can just apply. It's a delicate balancing act. It's about having compassion for the individual, having the insight to see their true character, and also upholding justice for the good of everyone. It's all about having the wisdom to know when to show mercy and when to stand firm.
And that really leaves us with a question that's just as relevant today as it was then, for any leader anywhere. When is mercy a sign of strength, and when is justice an absolute necessity? Figuring that out, well, that's the challenge that has always defined what true leadership really is.